Hey everybody, it's Tony here at Barlow Roots. Just wanted to do a quick video here. It is Friday afternoon and I am out working in the garden. I had a couple of small. They have since turned their attention to the rock pile, and that's fine. They're having fun. They helped me when I needed the help, and then I sent them on their way. So, as you maybe remember, some of you do from last fall, spent some time getting garden beds prepped last fall. We were able to prep 4 of those beds in the fall, or 8 of those beds in the fall, and then we have 4 left. And so I just finished the last 4 beds now. Plot here. And so here's the plot, and if maybe you remember, maybe you don't, but we've got, what we're doing here is 30-inch beds, so disregard this stake right here, that's just a string line, but 30-inch beds, and then a 12-foot walking path, 30-inch bed, 12-foot path, 30-inch bed, 12-foot path, 30-inch bed. So we'll have 4 beds in this garden, and man, it just drives me crazy trying to get these beds square and straight, and I'm sure there are easier ways, but because our closest building is that barn, and we're not even really sure if that's squared up or true, I actually ended up using good old-fashioned compass. And so my attempt was that I would just put the compass down on the string and try to get that going straight north and south as best I could, and then run a string line and then run my posts along that string. And the first time we did this was actually this last weekend, and we just did it, and I went and looked down the beds, and it just drives you crazy. It's not straight, it's crooked, whatever, and so it just drives me crazy. So my 2 garden partners, my dad and my wife, were like, just leave it, just forget about it, but I couldn't do it. So anyway, I got it as good as I can get it now, and it looks pretty good. Both ends are 50 feet long, and that's the one thing, is you just want to have a consistent 50-foot bed, because you're using landscape cloth that's cut to 50 feet, your hoses are 50 feet, and you just want to have that consistency. I don't see this, and I don't know if I can zoom on this thing. I don't think I can. So anyway, down there is our row of 8 beds. If you look right in the middle, right here, one of the problems is last year when I was doing this and I set up those beds, and those beds are all completely ready, those beds aren't square. And so then we tried to base this row of posts for this bed of 4 on those, and again, if those aren't square, then these aren't going to be square, and whatever. I'm sure I'm overthinking it, but it's ready to go now. Next step is I'm going to take a shovel, and I'm actually going to walk down this way. I'm going to take a shovel and just dig a little narrow footpath, so we have a more well-defined walking path in the garden, and can more clearly see where we've got our 30-inch beds and 12-inch walkers. Here's this bed of 8 we did last year, and again, you can see right here, here's a walking path. And we're not really going for raised beds. I just go through with a shovel and just toss the dirt onto the beds on either side, just so it clearly defines where our bed is and where our walking path is, and that'll get even easier to see, obviously, once we start planting and stuff. But still left the stakes in on this side, and these beds are relatively straight, but they're just not, I don't know, they're just not perfect. So anyway, these ones are a little more perfect, but they're still not perfect, but they're perfect enough for me. And yeah, and so that's the next step. And then I wanted to show you this too. So these beds are pretty weedy. We've had grass issues in these beds forever, and so what we're doing is we're tarping these beds. And here's a good example down here. What happens when you tarp them is it gets nice and cozy and warm under there, and then the weeds grow, and then they obviously have no sun or water, and so then they die underneath the tarp, and that takes 2 to 3 weeks. So here's a big chunk of we've got this creeping Charlie in here that's just disgusting. It's absolutely the worst thing ever. But this is a good example. So this weed underneath the tarp shot up, and then you can see how it's yellow. And it's yellow because it's got no light. It's got no chlorophyll. And so then in theory, after that 2 to 3 weeks time, hopefully those weeds will all come up and then die. You can see over in that corner we've got a bunch of grass. It's called the stale seedbed technique. And so as soon as we get this bed done, dug out and ready to go, we'll cover it up again, and hopefully that process will continue, and the beds will get a little more, hopefully be a little more weed free. But this first year it's going to be a bit of a challenge to battle some of those weeds, and most of the garden is going to be covered in landscape fabric. Most of our beds, just a few, these two beds closest to the cherry trees will have lettuce in them, and those beds we're not planning on doing landscape fabric, and so we're going to have to just battle with the weeds in those beds, and hopefully we can stay ahead of it and battle. So that's what I know from the garden. We're going to keep working here. The weather is gorgeous and it looks like a really nice weekend, so we hope to get a lot done, and we'll check in as we go through the process of getting the garden ready for planting. All right, thanks for watching this video here on Barlow Roots. If you have any friends that are into gardening or whatever else we're doing, feel free to spread the word, share these videos. Love to grow our base here and reach more people. All right, thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next video.